Sanusi Musa is a member of the APC. He's also a legal practitioner. He joins us from Kano. And then Yunusa Tanko is Publicity Secretary of Head of Public Affairs of NC Front. Good morning. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. So, having heard the suggestions, you heard from that of the Borno State Governor just now, but then Zamfara State taking certain measures to ensure that they curb this security challenge of banditry or terrorism that they do have. We also have seen recommendations and measures taken by Kaduna State restricting certain movements at certain times. So, Mr. Tanko, tell us, those measures, I mean, they always welcome whatever measure that can provide solutions. How would you assess those steps that are being taken and perhaps from those states, for instance?
Okay, good morning, Nigeria. Chamberlain and Kari, it's nice to see you after the drama of the hazard of the job. And then quickly, to mention the issue of Zamfara State. We all know that Zamfara neighbors around 4 states, Sokoto, Kebbi State, Kaduna, and Katsina State. Interestingly, the population in Zamfara State is about 9.2 million people, with a landmass of about 15,350 square miles, and then with 14 local governments. Of course, Zamfara also neighbor an international country, Niger, up in the north. Predominantly, the people in Zamfara State are farmers, but of course, the advent of discovery of gold in that particular state become an interesting situation. Not also excluding the issue of internal politics that has bedeviled the state for quite a while. So some of these indices is good to take into notice of what is happening in Zamfara State. Unfortunately, at a point in time, the state itself have been having a lot of killing. That's why sometimes when I hear this issue of killing, some small killings that take place in the north, in the advent of probably colonizing certain direction of the country in terms of religious aspect, I find it difficult to understand. Almost on a daily basis, quite a lot of people are being killed in Zamfara State as if they are chickens. And that for me is unacceptable. The issue about the suggestions or the actions being taken by some of the governors in Kaduna and possibly Niger State and other states, it seems to me is a kind of a choreographed idea of trying to find a short-term solution to the problem. Now, quite honestly, we all know that some of these people who are creating problem for the country have also needs, domestic needs, in terms of petrol, in terms of food, in terms of other amenities. So probably the government is thinking that the best way to cut down some of these supplies to these bandits, kidnappers, is to reduce the usage of either getting fuel in jerry cans, probably the movement of cattle, which of course, movement of cattle and markets on a weekly basis is an opportunity being given to some of them to use in transporting possibly weapons and other information gathering system. So in order to curb that particular idea, the government is now trying to shut down those particular measures so that they could have a kind of a lead way of trying to tackle the issue. But for me, the long-term plan is much more important, whereby the government, of course, will find out exactly what is the root cause of the problem and trying to have a direct contact. Interestingly, I am very, very sure that a lot of information is at the desk of the chief security officers of the states. Majority of them have full information as regard to what is happening within their localities and they, of course, unfortunately, failed to really take decisive measures with regard to how they deal with it. I think there have been a lackadaisical attitude towards the issue right
Tanko,
from the beginning.
let's bring in Mr.
Now
Musa as well.
That has reached a crescendo. It
Not
is
to
now
worry.
time for them to take more decisive action.
All right, we'll still come back to you in a minute, but let's get Mr. Sanusi to also give us his opening thoughts on how this is panning out. So, Mr. Musa, go ahead. How does this come across to you?
Well, I think it's something that worries every Nigerian, but I don't want to see it as something that will surprise all of us, because this is a systematic decade that has been going over the years. It is not something that has started yesterday or day before yesterday. Because I saw a video yesterday which shows some of the bandits holding a carnival sort of in the bush. It shows you that there is a lot of weapons in their hands. And I think my main problem is the way we look at the failure. If we always look at the failure at the doorstep of the executive alone or the president alone, then we always get it this way. Chamberlain, over the years, not only there, all over the country, kidnappers have been arrested. Have we been following up to see what happened with their prosecution? It's whose fault? Is it the executive that's supposed to prosecute that is delaying the trial, or the judiciary that's supposed to carry on the trial? So this is something that we must put everybody on the spot, and holistically, all of us must see this fight against terror and banditry as a fight that all of us must come together to fight, irrespective of our own political affiliation. Otherwise, at the end of the day, we'll never get to where we're supposed to be. And also the politicians. I want to say this to all of us, because if we continue to, let me say, support or in a way, promote thuggery, political thuggery, is what normally translates to what we have today. And also the issue of corruption that people don't want to talk about. I mean, I have seen the data of the Nigerian police, and going by the United Nations recommendation of having 400 people to one policeman, we are not understaffed by the number of the police we have. But then, why is it that they are not performing their duties? What happened to the budgetary allocation we do year in, year out? The only
okay,
thing
Mr. Musa, quite a number of issues that you raised. So if we could just see how much of that we can unpack. When you say all of us, and then you equally refer to politicians who have thugs, political thuggery,
yes,
which you say eventually results in these kind of things. So one, you lay the blame at the feet of politicians, suggesting when they hire thugs, they don't do whatever they're supposed to do, and then it ends up like this. That's one. But what exactly are you suggesting that this all of us do? And who are the us? Is it general public or politicians?
No, when I say us, I mean the elites, the politicians, the media people like you, the civil servants, the business community, the religious leaders. I think they are the ones that will come together and shape the society, because the masses are just like a group of hearts. You know, the heartsmen are this group of elites that whatever they decide is where the direction of the country goes. If the civil servant decide to do their work correctly, if the politicians decide to discharge their duties correctly, if the media decide to keep to its duty of being the fourth rim of the estate, by checking not only the executive, following up with specific cases, like the case of the notorious kidnapper in Lagos, what is happening that, you know, we have seen in the cases of O.J. Simpson's where the CNN was able to be following the trial from day to day. Those are the kind of things that all of us will have to do so that we'll be able to know where the problem lies and tackle it. But this
we can't hear you. We lost. Oh, okay, go ahead. Maybe it's me then. Could you hear him?
Yes.
Oh, my apologies. I think it must have been me.
No problem.
Go ahead, please.
No problem. Because this
I'll just
issue
check my
of this
connection.
holier than thou attitude, this holier than thou attitude, that I think I'm not the problem, the president is the problem. No, the governor think it is the National Assembly that is the problem, will never take us anywhere. All of us will have to admit that we have failed the country. We have failed the people. It's not about who is the president, who is the best, because all of us, in a way or one way or the other, are contributory to what is happening in this country today. And nobody can be happy with this.
Well, Mr. Musa, I think I get the point you're raising. I think I get the point you're raising,
Yeah.
but I'd like us to take it in context, proper context. I mean, because if you say
Yes.
everybody should do this, I mean, people imagine, I mean, interpretations are different. I recall in Plateau State, people thinking, oh, essentially take your protection into your hands, take laws into your hands as well, arm yourselves and the rest. So when you say it's everybody should take the blame, how do you factor in the fact that we have a government? The essential responsibility of a government is security and welfare. It is there in the Constitution. So people will tell you that, I mean, it doesn't talk about the people. It essentially talks about government. So government is meant to lead in that sense. So if people blame the government, don't you think they have a right? Because they gave the mandate to secure their lives, give them welfare to the government. And for them, they do not see those things happening. So rather than say, okay, it's my fault, they say, well, I gave the mandate to government and government is not performing. So don't you think people are right in that light to say the government is not performing?
Okay, let me put it this way. Why will the governor of Zamfara State go to when in a meeting with the security official to say that they are calling on the government to declare, the president to declare state of emergency? Haven't you read Section 305? If the governor truly is not that he's making a political statement, he wants the state of emergency to be declared, let him go and read Section 305. It has given him the way to go about it. It's not about when you are meeting with people, say it to the public. Let him walk the talk. Let him, together with the State House of Assembly, follow the procedure established by the Constitution so that they will request the president properly to declare state of emergency in the state. But that is just an example of the way all of us play politics with this issue. Then now everybody will say, the poor people that don't even understand the Constitution will say, the president has refused to declare state of emergency because the governor has said that the state of emergency should be declared. But the governor is not to say that state of emergency should be declared on the TV or when meeting with people. The Constitution has given him a procedure to follow, more especially when you go to Section 305. So why can't he do that? These are the kind of things that all of us should stop doing and do the right thing so that we go and check this head on. When I talk about the government, is it only the president that we elected or the National Assembly? They appointed judges. We have a Ministry of Justice that is filled with lawyers. Are they prosecuting the cases properly? What of the police? So these are the things that I think that all of us will have to take and be checking it. I mean, trying to see that where really the blame is. Because if we continue with this blanket blame of saying everything is like this, we may not get where we went. Yes, the people have the right to question the government, but the people also have a duty to assist the government in discharging its duty. If people are, putting the police on the spot and the judiciary, they can be able to pinpoint to the executive that this is what is happening there. They can be able to pinpoint to the judiciary, this is what this particular judge is doing. He ought not to be a judge. Simple. So this is what I mean. This is how we can be able to come to holistically tackle this issue. Otherwise, it will continue. And I think this is very important. Let me say it today. There is need for a meeting of general stakeholders in this country. If I think the president may need to revisit the issue of Chief Akinyele's committee that was set up by General Sani Abacha, we need to have a national reconciliation committee because there is a lot of anger among the people which easily lead to unnecessary violence. Then I think that committee may likely be able to meet with various stakeholders And if possible, each state should set up a reconciliation committee. That committee, I think, will be able to get the data of what is going on and how to tackle it, and also try to see that who are real culprits are. Because I can tell you that the little experience I have, the culprit in this security situation is more within all of us, those who cover it, those who refuse to carry out investigation, those who refuse to try the people, those who give them bail to go and commit another offense tomorrow. If we don't take this holistically and we continue to say that, oh, it is the fault of the president, I'm afraid we may not be able to get where we want to get. And
well,
I think it is not good because we are deserted in India.
Well, Mr. Tanko, Mr. Musa suggests that politicians, of which you're one, should remove the speck in their eye first before looking for the wood in somebody else's, saying they're just basically playing the ostrich because all of those dogs that are hired are part of the problem.
Well, while I agree that the citizens have a right to do what they are supposed to do as citizens, but I disagree completely when we talk about not apportioning blame to those who are saddled with the responsibility of governance. Number one, because when you give somebody your own vote, it is believed that you have given him the power to correct or lead you in the right direction. And if he or she failed in that direction, of course, the blame will be laid squarely on that particular leader. And this leadership, of course, comes from probably within, even from the ward level, from the councillor, to the local government chairman, and members of the state assembly, governors, and then the president, who is the overall head of the country. If certain issues fail within that level, of course, you lay it squarely on the leadership who you have given that particular power in order to midwife. With regard to the question of politicians, yes, I agree. There's a lot of questions in which the politicians need to answer. Unfortunately, the politicians are those who even find themselves in the position of leadership. If they have been doing what they ought to have done, probably we wouldn't find ourselves in this situation. At a point in time in this country, it's just like a football match. We had leadership that has an opportunity who have been able to given an opportunity to play a penalty kick in a football match, and then they squander it and then lose instead of hitting the net, they blow the ball over the bar. And here we are again, we have leadership who have been able to dribble everybody to a point in which they now have even dribbled the goalkeeper and then shooting the ball off the post. And that is the situation in which we find ourselves in our country. So we must apportion blame for those who have. And this is where we need to ask the question. Security issues have been tabled. Information have come out when we don't even expect. But the government have not really come out clean to tell us exactly some of this heap of information that they've already gathered over the years. This is not to apportion it only to this particular government. Even successive governments have not been able to do so. But here we are expecting that the government of the day will be able to expose some of these particular heinous crime against the people, but none has been done at the moment. And at the same time, it is not completely true that we say that some of the politicians too have not been able to do what is right. So don't let us use the same brush to sweep everybody. But there are those who are trying to do the right thing. But predominantly, those who have failed the nation have taking more an overlapping position. So we want to challenge everybody that is concerned with the position of leadership. When you are being given leadership, don't forget, it is not only here that you have to account to God himself too. The kind of killing that is taking place in this country is so much unbelievable that you will be thinking that really, do we even have a government in power? And we will call on everybody, those who have the responsibility to checkmate this particular heinous crime, to really act where it is expected of them to act. They cannot leave this country, or we will not allow this country to be in this situation.
Do you see any role for citizens, and what would that be, if you do? Information sharing. You see, the truth about it is that they have left the country in such a way that they have annihilated those in the grassroots.
We have 774 local governments as a third tier of government. But what have we done to this particular local government? We've completely annihilated them in terms of even funding and taking care of them. And maybe until recently when Mr. President decided to send direct funding to the local government. Now, it does make the whole situation so porous in the possibility that people don't really care about people who are living in the rural areas. And that has become one of the major problems of our security challenges. Because the state governors who are saddled with the responsibility of funds being given to them and all, they have gagged these particular resources to themselves alone. They only decide who gets what at what time. And had it been that the federal government has treated them the same way, we would have had a serious situation in our hands. So probably it is time we even advocate for a fourth tier of government where virtually all the villages and the locality will be apportioned certain amount of money and it go directly to them. So that people will feel the impact of governance. As it is today, majority of the people in the rural areas are not feeling the impact of government. So they let me take that part in a situation where they are open for any kind of thing.
Let me take some parts of that issue you raised about governments, both at the local and state level, to Mr. Sanusi Musa. When, you cite Section 305, responsibility of states, what it is that they can do in all of these things, but why would any governor who is the chief security officer of their state, will they be in a position to ensure there is peace and stability and then not do it? Because, I mean, it just flies against reason. If they could do it, don't you think they would have done it? Because they won't want to be governing a state that is ungovernable.
Yeah, no, of course. I don't believe there is any person who is leader who would like to see the place in chaos. Certainly no. But what I'm trying to say is that, you see, it is this issue of thinking that if I admit that we have problem, it's like I failed. That is not the issue. The governors are seeing it as if there is problem, as if it is the cause of their opponent. No. When there is a problem, let us admit there is a problem and there is a limit to what you can do to solve it, and let us involve others to see that we solve it. But this winner takes all, this where everything is restricted to politics. The governors see the opposition as people who are not ready to support them to succeed. And of course, the opposition on the other part, they think that in security matters, they normally jubilate if there is a breach of security, thinking that it's a way for them to capitalize and get some political gain. Forgetting that if those problems, if they do not support the government to solve it, if they get to power, the same problem will be there. So, of course, no governor can do that. But what I'm saying, like the governor of Zamfara, let me read section 305 of 4 for you. It said the governor of state may, with the sanction of a resolution supported by 2/3 majority of the House of Assembly, request the president to issue a proclamation of state of emergency in a state when there is existing within the state any of the situations specified in subsection 3C, D, and E of this section. And such situation does not extend beyond boundaries of that state. Now, what am I trying to say? Is true that what are the three things? Yes, there is actual breakdown of public order and public safety in Zamfara state. There is clear presence of danger in the state. There is occurrence of imminent danger in the state. So instead of you talking to the press, why can't he now seek the support of the State Assembly to have that resolution passed, then send it to the president for what is supposed to be done? So, and I was look at how Mr. Tanko was talking. Let me just go back to this issue. And when he's talking about this politician, he's saying they. Who are the they? You know, it's this issue of trying to remove yourself from the problem. When I talk about the politician, even though I'm not holding any political office, but I must agree I'm part of it, it's we We, the politicians, all of us. And one way or the other, if we don't agree that we are part of the problem,
the fact
we
that you
cannot solve
agree
it.
that you're part of the problem does not mean he's part of the problem. You are speaking from a point of view that, okay, I've been a part of this, I've seen these things happen,
that's what I'm
have
trying to
approved
say.
it. But
That's
he's
what
saying,
I'm
well,
trying to say.
he's not a part of it. Do you want him to be a part of it by force? I don't quite understand.
That's the problem. You are part of it, I'm part of it. You are in the media. If one person in the media is doing something that is wrong and you are not trying to put it in the right way, you are also part of the problem.
No.
And even if you
Okay,
put it
I
in
think
the
we should
right
break
way,
this
you are
down
not
so we
supposed
don't. Pardon me. I think we should break this down properly so we don't mess things up. So imagine that a person's village has been attacked, for example, and the person listening is hearing you're part of the problem, and in the person's mind they're thinking, well, I did my best. At least I called security agencies. Are you saying that I invited people to attack me? So to that extent, saying that you are part of it, you're part of it, just paints everybody with the same brush. And I don't think we'll address the problems that way. In fact, referencing Zamfara State, just recently, I don't know if you've seen the executive order that the governor actually announced, talking about all weekly market activities within the state suspended, entry and exit of vehicles. You know, to that extent, that was something he could do without the legislature coming in. So, I mean, specifically speaking now, rather than saying we're all a part of the problem, you can speak about how you can solve the problem, how your party can solve the problem, how the president can solve the problem. And then it's left to the people to know, okay, this is what we can do to solve the problem.
Okay, what I'm trying to say, like the issue of stopping the weekly market, cattle market, is welcome development, because it is in those markets that normally this money this money that is taken by for ransom in the bushes are being laundered. They go there, purchase cows, you know, all this, so that they can be able to have it transported to purchase the arms. But why I'm saying we are part of the problem, when Boko Haram started, it is the same way the people of Maiduguri were not exposing their sons who were part of it until it reaches where it is. It is just like what is happening. I mean, those people, when they started in the villagers know them, but they were not doing what they're supposed to do. They don't inform the security agent. Or rather, even if they inform the security agencies, they are not doing what they're supposed to do. And also, I totally agree, the majority of the blame is with the government. Because if, for instance, the government will have the courage to deal with any civil servant that is found to failed in his duty, either in prosecuting a terrorist or a kidnapper, and if the government will have the courage to deal with any judicial officer that is found to breach the rules in either releasing a kidnapper or a terrorist, all this will go a long way in helping the situation. And if the press will put eye on the judiciary to see that they check that the police and every other person. So, in other words, what I'm trying to say is, of course, the men of the blame will go to the government, because the government is voted to provide security for the lives and properties of the people. And when there is breach of that, of course, everybody will blame the government. But what I'm saying, all of us should know that we have a role to play one way or the other for us to get out of the situation we are in now, because it's quite unfortunate. And if we continue the way we are going, I don't see us getting out of the problem in a near future. Unfortunately, this is the truth that we must tell ourselves.
All right, Mr. Tanko, could you just give us, what will your solutions be quickly so that we can wind down on this?
I'm glad that another person, Madam Musa, has come to terms with reality by agreeing that, of course, the buck stop on the time of the poor who are leading. Section 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria clearly stipulates that the duties of the leadership for protecting life and properties squarely lies on those who are in charge of the country. So going forward in terms of trying to find solution to the problem, look, the government and the people who are in position of power should come down from their high horse and stop pretending. When there is an accusation being made, it is important for the government to come out clean, to give clear explanation to some of the actions that they have taken. and agree to some of the failures in which that is apportioned to them. Once that is done, there will be a building of trust within the people and then those who are in government. As it is now, there's this particular feeling of completely saying that government keep on denying certain aspect of certain situation happening. That is not right. We are all human beings. If we make mistake, accept it, correct it. The people in the grassroots are actually suffering the heat of this particular situation.
All right, Mr. Tanko.
The government must be able to accept that they have failed in that regard to connect with the people so that they can be able to help them in fighting the situation on ground. But when you continue to deny this particular situation, what you are doing is just heaping more problem to yourself and not having the people to go along with you. At the moment, I must tell you, a lot of Nigerians are completely disillusioned. They are completely
all right, Mr. Tanko,
tired.
We need to go at this point
to a next solution to the problem. But we will continue to advise that there's hope in the horizon, and then we should continue to give this best support that we can give to the government.
All right, Mr. Tanko, thank you very much indeed for your perspectives. Yunusa Tanko is the head publicity National Consultative Front. We've also had Mr. Sanusi Musa, who is a member of the APC and a legal practitioner. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right, let's go right on and take a look at some of the mails. Ejikesa is talking about managing repentant terrorists. He thinks terrorists must be treated as war criminals, and anyone who surrenders should be a prisoner of war. They must face the law. We are a country of laws.
We'll take a look at APC Samuel's mail. Concerning the surrender of Boko Haram, we have to look into this issue very well, because they are coming back to checkmate us. Their return means a lot. FG should look into this issue very well. God bless Nigeria.
Well, Rachel says it's not a big problem for the government to rehabilitate the member of repented Boko Haram. The real question is, what are they doing for victims of Boko Haram?
Well, let's take this one on party politics. Festus Akimboyewa says the current APC party leadership crisis is a sign that significant divisions remain inside the party after months of crisis that led to the removal of the former elected national chairman. There's also serious problems with the party structures that will need a lot of hard work to repair.
Yeah, so there you go. That is it today. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time. I'm Chamberlain. So
I'm Kaido Kikelu. Have a beautiful day ahead.